Alrighty, I'm here today with Alex, who's the leading non-technical stack at EtherMail, and we're going to chat all things email in Web3. Welcome, Alex.
Hey there. Good to be here with you, Louis.
So let's kick things off for folks who are not familiar with EtherMail, and as this is going to be the inaugural Ethereum side podcast, that may be quite a few folks. Can you kick off and let us know what EtherMail is?
Sure. At first, I feel thankful and real special to be the first ones to inaugurate this sort of Ethereum focused or EVM focused chat. So I hope I do it justice. But EtherMail, as the name suggests, we do Web3 native email. So this means something like instead of sending an email to alec@gmail.com, you send an email to my 0x@ethermail.io. So this means your wallet address becomes your email address. So we have two stakeholders, right? A project side and an end user side. But for an end user side, this means wallet-to-wallet email, anonymous email, encrypted email, good stuff email.
Nice. So wallet-to-wallet email. Yeah, maybe just, is it possible to give the user a bit of an idea from the user perspective, like how they would be using the wallet-to-wallet email?
Sure. So, okay, the name, like we said, right? So instead of sending an email to alec@gmail.com, you send an email to my 0x@ethermail.io. So your wallet address becomes your email address. You can think of it like Gmail, right? Just like an email. So, right, you're gonna log in to the web app, and your wallet address is your email address. So if I know your wallet address, I can just send you an email only using your sort of wallet address, right? People will say, well, the wallet address is really long, and what if I don't remember it? So this is cuts both ways, right? So part of the beauty of Web3 blockchain as a whole, right, is being sovereign to a certain degree, right, or anonymous to a certain degree, and using a wallet address allows you to do that. However, if you want to sort of dox yourself, you could. And we allow you to sort of hook up that 0x to an alias, right? So if you have an ENS, unstoppable domain, free name, right? These are popular sort of naming providers and naming services on Ethereum. You can sort of hook that up, right? So I could, instead of going as my 0x.ethermail.io, I could be alec.eth, for example, and then it's a shorter, easier to remember, and less anonymous though.
Okay. I got you. So my default would be the wallet address, which is, as you said, a long, kind of hard, very difficult to remember.
Yep.
I think not many people remember their wallet addresses. You remember the last four numbers maybe, and then you have the possibility of attaching that to a namespace, an ENS, and that could, I suppose, be in theory also kind of anonymized, right? It wouldn't have to be your Twitter.
That's true.
Account.
That's also true, right? We're also going to be some alpha here for you guys. We're also going to be releasing sort of our own sort of aliases. So if you wanted to just hook it up directly to just the EtherMail one, you could. So we'll have that rolling out in the near future.
Okay, got you. And what was the original impetus for making EtherMail? What's the main problem that you guys see yourself solving?
Sure. So I think then I'll sort of give you that, and then I'll lead this in sort of painting a bigger picture, right, of what we're solving for. So the current status quo of communication in Web3 is an insurmountable amount of group chats and messages, right, that exist in Telegram or Discord or some group chat-like space, right? So this is if you look at your phone, it's thousands or hundreds of messages, and you end up muting a lot of them, right? But what it ends up happening is this inverse correlation between group chat size and community quality or communication quality, right? So a group chat of 5 people, high signal, low noise. A group chat of 1,000 people or 10,000 people, it's just GM, 1 million, 1 Lambo, right?
Yeah.
So something inherently broken here, right? Especially if crypto is blockchain, we want to scale, right? Our communication needs to scale with us, and this is not scalable. And then on the flip side, right, blockchain is a really data-rich space, right? But the blockchain is a ledger where data is stored publicly that everyone can sort of see and analyze how they see fit. But the current status quo, the sort of the data layer and communication layer are divorced. So there's no way for me in sort of a Telegram chat, right, to say I want to talk to my audience, but I only want to talk to the people who sort of are doing this or are interested in that, right? And I can't do this, and it doesn't seem to make sense because blockchain in roundabout ways is data. Okay, so we saw this at this problem and said, well, there's got to be a better way. And for us, that's email, right? So what we're doing is we're marrying this data and communication layer, right? Which is basically being able to send emails to wallet addresses, right? These wallet addresses are linked to on-chain activity, which then means like now you can look at an individual and speak to them should you wish based on their on-chain sort of identity, right? And so I'm talking a lot, and this might be confusing is because we've only spoken about like one half of the side without talking about the other half, right? So we have, like I said, we have two stakeholders. So for one stakeholder is the end user, and again, this is quote unquote just email. So this means you're, instead of sending email to alec@gmail.com, email to your 0x@ethermail.io. So once again, your wallet address is your email address. Okay, cool. But on the flip side, we have a project or an on-chain community, a dApp, DAO, protocol, L1, etc. And the problem we're solving for is best seen through an NFT example. It's not exclusive to NFTs, but it's a really simple one. So let's imagine I'm an NFT issuer. On the primary sale to you, Louis, I ask you for your name, your last name, your favorite food, your blood type, your dog's name, your mom's name, whatever, right? But then there's a secondary sale. There's a tertiary sale. On a qualitative level, I no longer know who my holder is, but more so, I have no way to talk to them. I have to hope they come to my Telegram. I have to hope they come to my Discord. I have to hope these channels aren't muted. And as we established, right, you always mute this because you're inundated with messages. So as we saw it, there didn't exist a medium of high fidelity communication, and that's where we sit. And because we're delivering emails to wallet addresses, because we're scanning the chain, we're always going to know who the right holder is, who the right person is, and even more so, we're going to give you the ability to talk to those people in a data-rich way, right? So, are you familiar with MailChimp?
Yep.
All right. So for the people who aren't familiar with MailChimp, MailChimp is sort of like a marketing standard in Web2, right? It's like a communication or marketing suite that allows you to sort of email at scale and has like sort of templates and automated workflows and segmenting abilities. So from a project side, you can think of us like doing the same thing, but for Web3, right? So if I'm an NFT project or any project that say I have a million holders and I want to email all of them, I can. If I want to start to email them, but based on like their holdings or their on-chain activity, I can, right? So if I want to email like my whales or people who hold this NFT or this NFT attribute or whatever, I can. And it really like sort of allows me to dial in that communication and build deeper relationships with my community, and sort of like Web3 is all about community, right? So we think this adds a lot of value, and sort of the market and the way it's been receptive has sort of confirmed that, you know, the value we're adding.
One question in terms of the UX or the user journey on the recipient side. So I understand, imagine you have an NFT project, you want to contact me as a holder, you send out an email. How does that work? Like, do I have to be sign? Yeah, can you walk me through how that user journey looks like?
Yeah, sure. So I'll take advantage to answer one more technical question before talking about this UX, right? So EtherMail, like our emails, they don't pass on chain, right? Because if the emails pass on chain, you run into like some issues. You run into gas fees, which is semi-solvable, but then you run into sort of more important ones like permanence and retrievability issues. So let's imagine the emails were on chain, and then let's imagine you want to delete an email. Well, you're not deleting that email, right? So it doesn't make a lot of sense. So for us, at least it doesn't make sense for us. So the emails don't pass on chain. The emails are encrypted end to end. Those encryption keys are stored on chain, so we have no access to the emails, or the keys to sort of unlock them. But the emails don't pass on chain, which means that there's no gas fees when you have to send emails, right? Among other things. Like, for example, this means you can we're built on standard email protocol, IMAP SMTP. So this means like going to the UX, for example, you can, the same way with like a Gmail or Yahoo Mail or Hotmail, you can sort of ingest this and receive it wherever you want, whether it's your Outlook, your Apple Mail, what have you. Okay, so generally the UX is you have to create an account, right, which is just hook up your wallet. You have to go to our web app or our mobile app. You connect your wallet for the first time, and then you're sort of in our experience, and that's just it looks and feels just like a Gmail, like a mailing app, right? But like I was saying, because we're built on standard IMAP or SMTP protocol, standard email protocol, you can then, if you prefer to have that in Outlook, you can then pull that in Outlook, right? So I'm not sure if this is going to look good, but let's give it a shot. This is my phone. This is my standard, like this is like my email inboxes, right? And then let's open up this one. You'll see this is an email. Let's see how that looks. Oh, it's not really.
Yep.
But anyways, it's up here is a 0x. Doesn't look that great. We tried.
Yeah. Just for the listener, it looks like a typical email.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, and so imagine like I'm a prolific Ethereum user. I have a very an address which is very old and has been interacting a lot. In the future, is it the case that I would, for example, hook up to EtherMail and then would have like 100 emails from the past that have been sent to me or that have been sent to my address?
That's a great question. So we create holding addresses for all possible wallet combinations, right? So let's imagine I was like, I never hooked up my wallet for the first time. You're a project, you've been sending me, 10 emails that I've missed. Upon entering the first time, I would see it historical. There's no communication loss, right? It's really high fidelity. And this is sort of another value add, right? Or solve to the sort of status quo. And sort of infinity feed experiences like a Discord or a Telegram or a Twitter, right? You're bound to miss stuff because it's just like flowing through. But in an inbox experience, that's not the case. So there's like a value add here too, right? Is you're not gonna miss things about the community you care about. And I think this, like if we take a step back, another reason why this is so valuable is because of like, let's say how like the seismic shift in commercial relationships. So if you like look at Web 2, like Coca-Cola, right? Like nothing stabs at Coca-Cola, but like in reality, Coca-Cola cares about an end user because they want to make money. It's pretty obvious. As an end user, you don't really care about Coca-Cola, right? You might like drinking Coca-Cola, but you don't really care about Coca-Cola, right? In Web 3, this is very different. So you're a part of an NFT project. Let's say like a World of Woman, just to say one that's like famous that your community may be aware of, right? So I'm not a holder of World of Woman, but just for the example, right? World of Woman cares about their end user for obvious reasons, and me as a holder, I also care about World of Woman, right? Like that's why I decided to sort of spend the money to buy this NFT. It's why I'm an active participant in the community. And that's why it's my PFP or what have you, right? So the brand cares about me, but I also care about the brand. So there's this bi-directional importance in communication that needs to occur. And in like the current status quo communication, right, group chats, etc., this doesn't really work, right? Because I want to be communicated to based on my on-chain identity, based on my activity. I want to be seen and heard for what I'm doing. And the only way to do that is to marry that communication and data layer, which you can do on EtherMail, for example, but you can't do on Telegram, for example.
One question, as someone who lived in Berlin for a while and is fully aware of the data protection stuff in Europe, how does that work? Because it sounds to me like by using the protocol, you're sort of opting in to be emailed. We don't have to go too far into it because it's probably complex, but is there a TLDR there?
Yeah, so when you let's say connect your wallet, you opt in to being spoken to by from the communities you're part of, okay? But you can always opt out, all right? We're also trying to solve like this unwanted comm scenario. So for an end user, we also have like a privacy wall. So I can come in and have three options. So I can say, look, I'm happy to, like for any Web3 participant to speak to me, so I'm totally open. I only want to be spoken to by people that are in my communities. So you and I say we share a certain number of tokens. Or I can say, look, no, I only want to be spoken to by the communities I'm a part of, right? So stick to the same example, only World of Women can talk to me, right? Or then you can say like, look, I don't want anyone to talk to me, right? I don't want this particular community to talk to me. And so, we're based in Europe. We're, familiar and aware of GDPR. But alternatively, we're also very aware of like the Web3 stuff, right? So all like hacks that happen in Web3 in reality are phishing scams. What fails is like the people, not the blockchain tech, right? And so we want to give people the tools to sort of better protect themselves, which is why like, the privacy wall comes into play. So we're aware, cognizant, and respectful of people's not only privacy but security.
It makes sense because in a sense with the blockchain, you have like the mother of all email lists.
Yeah.
If you then emailify it. For someone I understand the value add for someone who's deep in crypto. What would you say to someone who is new to crypto or is maybe not even in crypto? Why they're listening, I don't know, but hypothetically, what's the value add versus, my emails works great. I've been using my email for 20 years. Why should I use, EtherMail?
That's a good question. If you're someone who's new to crypto, like anything else that you're new to, especially crypto because it's complex, you're bound to make mistakes and you're bound to do things you regret, right? So I've been in crypto for a while and I like the camera space isn't long enough to show you the list of like regrets that I have that I wish I didn't do like year 1 or month 2 or 3, right? So like, EtherMail gives you space. So again, like sort of maybe separate those lives, right? Like, have it siloed in a place as an extra, layer of protection or anonymity. And at the same time, it lets you interact in the space in a native way that isn't really complex, right? So like it lets you become familiar with wallets, the communication. Also, we have something called applets. So applets are plugins, right? So a very famous plugin is like say a Google Chrome extension, right? So I'm sure I imagine most people know what Chrome extensions are, but if not, Chrome extensions are sort of third-party plugins that sort of can put into your Google Chrome, right? The third party in Chrome are happy to do this because it sort of improves Chrome's happy to do this because it improves the UX. The third party is happy to do this because it gets access to users and users are happy because it's a better service, right? We also have plugins in EtherMail. We call them applets. So right now, if you go in there, you'll see MoonPay and you'll see Huddle01. We're releasing more, right? So MoonPay is an on-ramping service, which means you can convert fiat or say euros or dollars into crypto. And Huddle01 is a decentralized video conferencing provider, right? So think like a Google Meet, okay? These are Web3, projects, independent third parties, but that you can experience them natively inside of EtherMail, right? So if I was learning crypto Web3 for the first time, right? This we'll be releasing more, right? Like a wallet viewer, calendar, games, etc. It allows me, let's say, a safe space or one centralized place to sort of play around, all already natively integrated with my wallet. So it removes some of the complexities. And yeah, so I think between that and sort of siloing any errors that you may commit, it's a pretty interesting first step to take into the space.
So it's like a secure sort of playground, and also I think email is a primitive that basically everyone is familiar with. So it's a nice jumping off point because some elements in crypto are very unfamiliar. If you're like a regular user, you're probably not using a DEX or something is a bit confusing. You're not into finance or something. So yeah, it sounds like a very familiar way to jump into crypto. Let's look at it from the other angle now of like the more hardcore Web3 person. Like which parts of it, you said it's end-to-end encrypted. So which parts like speak to that kind of user?
So I think for a hardcore user, like anonymity is important, right? So this allows you to communicate in a truly anonymous way. Okay, like you don't have to give anything. You don't have to give any information about yourself other than your wallet address, and that's it, right? So if you're and then like you can hook up different wallets, right? So you can say use your burners, so to speak. Silo the different things you do on chain to those wallets, to those different types of communications. And I think it also then, that inbox experience, right? Like we're talking about hardcore users probably have loads of messages that they want to keep track on that they're bound to lose. If you can sort of have these different inboxes integrated into sort of a single view of your Outlook or wherever you want, right? It gives you sort of, I feel like it turns you into like a power user of communication, whereas since something else like an infinity scroll experience, like we were saying, right, or somewhere where you're less anonymous, strips you of some of sort of those powers or abilities.
Got you. I suppose the real power user is like inscribing directly in the blockchain and
yeah.
Okay, so how's the reception been so far from on the user side, and like how
so
long
we've been around for just a little bit over a year. We've been around since August of last year. Reception's been pretty good. We have over 500,000 end users. So we're pretty happy about that. Wow. We have around over 100 sort of like project partners. And our project partners are pretty sort of, we cast a wide net, right? So anyone who has an on-chain community, so it's means say any project has a smart contract or a wallet, like a token. So like we work with like NFT projects, we work with like DeFi projects, we work with even Web2 projects that have sort of Web3 offshoots or Web3 like programs. So we're pretty happy with how the market has received us up until now, and we'll be releasing sort of new tech, new functionalities in the coming months to hopefully capture the imagination and sort of the Web3 zeitgeist.
Got you. With regard to like onboarding Web2, we don't have to go too far into it, but I'm curious, we're looking now to get more users. We've been in a bear market for a while, and obviously some new users can come from Web2, or they'll have to. Can you just briefly comment a bit on like how that experience has been so far, trying to onboard people into Web3?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I see why you're the host of a podcast. So like, we think we're really, the Web2 to Web3 bridge is like the holy grail, right? Everyone's after. We think we're primed to solve for this because, as you mentioned before, email is a primitive everyone understands, everyone in quotes, right? Like, even your grandma understands, email. So we've had successes, but it's something we really want to focus on. And sort of to help that, we are developing things to further abstract the Web3 experience, right? So this could mean things like social login, right? So if you like log into an EtherMail with your Facebook, we could then abstract that process, create a non-custodial wallet on your behalf, right? Remove the need for sort of seed phrases and stuff. And because it's email, then it's something you can log into with ease, and sort of then you have that bridge. And then we talked about sort of the applets, the plugins. So you've logged in with with Web3 being abstracted. You're in a space you understand, and inside that space are all of the native Web3 protocols, right? That one would need to interact with to be a Web3 user, right? An on-ramp and off-ramp, a DEX, etc. But now all of a sudden, all of these protocols their experience has been abstracted because you are already interacting with them with the wallet you don't know you have inside your email experience. Does that make sense?
Yeah, completely. And I think this is where the ball is going across the board on the consumer facing side. I mean, I don't want to put too hard of a number, but I think within 2 years or so, the experience will be very different in crypto across the board, and much, much easier to onboard into.
Yeah.
So that totally makes sense. We had a previous episode a couple episodes ago with Ben from Meso, and he was talking all about account abstraction and passkeys, etc.
Yeah.
So if you're a bit lost with this, then go back and listen to that episode. Okay, so you're kind of leaking a little bit, or you're sharing that, like that's the bit where you guys are interested in heading in relation to onboarding like new users. Can you share a bit more about like what's coming down the pipeline on the EtherMail side?
Sure. So I already gave you some insight on like this like exciting tech, right? This also has like second order effects of like, now can I do payment via email, right? And instead of having to do payment through a wallet, which is kind of ugly, and it's like, did it go through? Is it right? Can I now create an experience where I can request payment for you. You can confirm the right address, you can confirm the right amount, and we can push it through as if it were like a Revolut experience inside of your email with a receipt. Maybe, right? So there's like, we have this exciting tech that's coming out, right? But then there's also, other like business sort of pillars that start to sort of pop up. So right now we've spoken about, let's say, like we have two stakeholders with, let's say, two business pillars. One's email, one's MailChimp, right? To sort of summarize. We have over 500,000 end users. We have all their on-chain data because it's on-chain. But we thought, like, what if we ask people to give us profiling data, right? So let's say, just say, simplify it, say age, gender, and interest. Would people respond positively? So we sort of did a test, and we got overwhelming response. Okay, so now we're like, okay, people will give us their profiling data. So we have on-chain data and profiling data. So with this now means we could create an advertisement marketplace where we can deliver to verified wallets. So the same way you can go to Facebook and run like your ad campaign to sort of profiles, right, like segmenting, we can now, this doesn't really exist in Web3. Lots of people are taking a stab at it. So are we, right? And we're going to be able to create an advertising marketplace where we deliver ads to verified wallet addresses. So it looks something like this. Let's imagine a big brand like Nike wants to run a $10,000 ad campaign into Brazil, targeting men between 18 and 30 who have declared they like fashion, have participated in DeFi in the last year, and hold half an ETH in their wallet. Okay, we'll be able to deliver that ad campaign for them to these verified wallets. Now, but it's like, well, the Web3 ethos, why are you doing that? How are you doing that? Well, it's totally opt-in, right? So for me to be advertised to, it's totally opt-in. And then the functionality, something like this, that $10,000 spend gets converted into tokens. And me for opting in to sort of receiving this advertisement, then I earn tokens in like a return model, right? It's like a more sustainable advertising ecosystem where there's like some economic alignment based on these like two sides of the fence. So we'll be sort of releasing that in the coming weeks, coming months. Again, all of this is totally opt-in. So if someone doesn't want this and wants to remain, anonymous without having to sort of, hear about things that may interest them or talk to brands that may interest them, they don't have to. But like that's the next big pillar that sort of we'll be putting out into the space.
It's interesting because we keep on getting reminded that crypto financializes everything.
Yes.
Right? So also email, like suddenly, you can just be reading your emails and getting paid to read emails. And the other element that I think is really cool about that, and some people, I can see why you want to split the crypto ethos and make it clear that it's possible to opt out, it's opt-in, because it is, getting rid of advertising was one thing that a lot of crypto people are quite bullish on or quite pushing for. But it makes so much sense to make the behavior of the on-chain user, able to be marketed to, because it's almost impossible to game. Or I mean, with the airdrops, I suppose people do game it, but it's much more difficult to game than like a Web2 marketing where you can just have bots running and looking at pages and etc. Because you would have to actually have money. You could say like, I want to market to people who've done like 10K volume in the last month, and paid $200 in fees or something. So then it's like, how do you game that? That's very expensive to then. It's not worth it to spend all this money on fees just to earn a bit on
sure, right? And we kind of do the same thing even before this this advertisement layer, right? So like, in order to be able to send emails or receive emails, we have to like prove you're human, right? One of those is like, there's like, you have on-chain transactions that are sort of worth something small, but something that if you were botting at scale would not be possible, right? So like, even just to come up with a random number, right? Like if you were even if you were like the limit were 10 cents, if you were botting at scale, this just precludes you from being able to do that. So we are from the jump at EtherMail, right? Have systems in place sort of to stop bots, malicious actors, etc.
Got you. So the social space, like social seems to be having a bit of a moment right now in crypto. And I see that email is kind of the OG social in some sense. I'm curious to get your like thoughts on friend tech so far. I mean, it's also setting up sort of private communication between people. Um, I'm not saying it's a competitor to EtherMail, but like, where it's all pushing forward in terms of people communicating within crypto beyond just like Telegram and Discord. Do you have any thoughts on this new social push? And like, can you paint a picture for where you think that communication in Web3 is heading in the next
Yeah.
years?
So we hear this a lot, but for us, there's a really important distinction between email and messaging, right? And even social. So you today and yesterday and tomorrow, right? You used and will use email, WhatsApp, Telegram, SMS, Discord, Twitter, all at the same time, and they all exist. They all coexist happily because you use them for sort of different means and different ends, right? What you send via email is different than what you send via WhatsApp. And so we're not playing sort of in the messaging space. We think this is also going to be like duplicated or replicated in Web3, right? You're going to have, messaging, and then you're also going to have email, right? Again, the things you send are going to be independent. But what for us remains true, right, is that email is arguably, in our belief, the sort of the most robust, B2C, P2P, communication layer that has existed in the world, and we don't see that going anywhere, particularly for important things, right? You're not gonna, I suppose you could, but most people aren't gonna, like the more important communications occur via email, not messaging.
You wouldn't send a contract to get signed through WhatsApp usually.
Right. Yeah. And then like, email, again, being so powerful, allows you to build things in it, right? So we're building in these applets, these plugins, but we can also build in messaging.
Interesting. I wonder how that would look.
So like, we don't have to use our imagination too much, right? Like, it didn't hit off with, let's say world rocking success, but Gmail, GChat was a thing for a moment, right?
True.
So EtherMail with its sort of infrastructure, UX, UI, et cetera, can do the same thing, right? So we're not particularly, we're not too concerned with sort of the messaging space or social space. We think they can coexist, and in some spaces, in some instances, like I'm alluding to now, right, one can be baked into the other.
Yeah, got you. One thing that I think we missed on is like, where is EtherMail actually available? I assumed EVM chains.
Yeah, so right now, you can interact with us on Ethereum, Polygon, BNB, Avalanche, Phantom, Celo. Don't think I'm missing any. So basically EVM chains, we're like rolling out more EVM chains. This is sort of purposeful, right? We started off on Ethereum because that's where sort of the masses were. Making other EVM chains available is a rather, say, easy task technically, and we want to say have the product a little bit more buttoned up before we sort of ported it over to something like Solana or a non-EVM chain, just because that then opens up more fronts and more complexities, and we just kind of want to be take it step by step. But our idea is in the coming months to be available non-EVM.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so if you're a Solana user, then stay posted. I don't think anything exists like that on Solana. I mean, we have the SNS name service, but I'm not aware of anything like EtherMail. And actually, I haven't heard about it previously. So, yeah, I think that we're just over 30 here. So, Alec, I think I called you Alex at the beginning. Apologies for that, Alec. Thanks so much for coming on and sharing. And I mean, email, maybe you get this when you're selling to people, but email is not the sexiest thing. It's not the most exciting thing, but it's what we all use. As you said, you got 500,000 users. So I think it's really worth talking about and seeing how we can add value.
I appreciate that, man. Like you're saying, it's not super sexy. Some people sometimes feel really passionate about it. I've emailed people being like trying to pitch my services. And there's one instance where someone responded to me saying, email should die. best regards, which I love. Like, it's kind of like F you, best regards. So he said email should die. I was like, wow. And so I went to his, and then I went to his project page on the home page. And in the home page, you scroll down a little bit, they have a newsletter. And if you want access to the newsletter, what do you have to put? An email.
Subscribe by email. I was going to ask, did he write that in an email, or was it written in a message?
Are you serious? So I now this is included. So we EtherMail do, I do as well. Like we'll go to conferences and we'll speak and whatnot. We sort of explain communication, the stats of communication, Web3, what's available, email, etc. And his screenshot his screenshot is part of the presentation.
Nice.
So the email should die.
It won't though.
No,
it's the cockroach, the cockroach of the internet. Perfect. Thanks so much for coming on, Alec, and sharing about EtherMail. And I'll be keen to sign up probably shortly, but definitely by the time you guys come on,
cool, man. For sure. I really appreciate it. It was fun chatting with you. And if anyone wants to any more information, you can find us on socials, EtherMail, and or just go to ethermail.io and try the service yourself.
For sure. Oh, actually, before we leave, what's the pricing? Real quick,
so for an end user, it's totally free. It's going to remain free. If at some point we decide to, have like premium features, maybe that will be charged. But EtherMail is always going to be free for an end user. For say a company that wants to use, let's say, the MailChimp service or like the advertising service, the costs associated to that, which are sort of standard like market rates, right? So if there's any project out there listening, let's say, for example, on the MailChimp service, that could be, like 100,000 emails a month, because like volume of emails a month is like sort of how you price. So 100,000 emails a month costs something like 200 euro. And then the advertising spend would be sort of like CPM based in function of sort of your segmenting.
Got you. Okay. So, but importantly, if you're, for the home
totally
user,
free.
It's free.
Totally
so
free.
Go check it out. Cool.
Thanks, brother.
Thanks again, Alec.